Hello again, I'm Gene Edwards, and tonight on Conversations, one of Mississippi's treasures, the boss queen of the sweet potato queens, author Jill Connor Brown is here to talk about her sassy new book called God Save the Sweet Potato Queens. She is joined by filmmaker Jim Dollarhide, who followed the queens around town, capturing their true essence in a hilarious, lighthearted documentary. Glad to have you. We don't let 3 months go by without having you on the program. In fact, we're just about to include you in the credits all the time.
Very good.
And glad to have you back.
It's good to be back. Thanks.
Is this just so surprising to you?
It really is. I mean, you know, you hope for the best, but you know, there's no way to predict.
First book came out 2 years ago.
Yes, March of '99.
And the first printing was how many?
Oh, it was only like 3,000 or 4,000.
And then what happened?
Reprint.
Leading to how many finally?
So far, the last count I heard was 300,000, but it's selling more all the time, and I'm so happy.
Why? What is it?
It's funny,
Well, yeah.
and people, you know, will buy it and send it to their friends, and say it's just taken off.
It's just
and
one of
it has
those
struck
word
a
of mouth.
chord.
Yeah.
And yes, it's totally word of mouth, and which I'm very grateful for. But it's the chord I think that it has struck, the books and the parade, everything is the need that we have to play, that we don't ever outgrow that, and people have just really responded to it. And there are groups of people all over the country, all over the world. The Irish Times, the largest paper in Ireland, is coming to cover the parade this year. And they're going to make a presentation to the Sweet Potato Queens from the Irish Potato Queen.
And here you are, stumbling around, and what happened?
Well, I've known Jill for 20 years, and just over the years, I haven't been a big participant in the parade, although I was in the first one,
Yes.
my green MGB.
Yes.
But in filmmaking, I'm doing this project or that. I filmed the parade a bunch, so I, of course, knew about the Queens from that. And
You were working on the documentary about Mississippi and
actually, it was the it was
City of
Through Our
Jackson.
Own Eyes. It was the City of Jackson film, and so I was filming the parade for that, and I got on the float with the Queens, and I went, oh, this is fun, and I wound up shooting a lot more film of the parade than I would ever use. But Carol Daly, who I went to high school with, started kind of hitting on me, going, "Come on,
She's a
Jim."
queen.
Right.
She's also a queen.
She's a sweet potato queen, and she said, "Jim, you got to shoot the shoot the parade and do us." So I said,
got to do this story.
"Yeah, do the Queens." So I said, "Oh, okay." And the day of the parade, I had said I would do it. And the day of the parade, she called me at 6 o'clock in the morning. She said,
Just
"Get
to
up
make sure."
and
Yeah.
get downtown." I go downtown. It's like
This was last year.
yeah. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning, and my office is on Capitol Street. And I come down to the office. I had to get my camera, and I came out of the office, and there were these women already lined up at 8 in the morning. And so I turned the camera on, and I started talking to them, and they were the Sweet Potato Queen fan club from Midland, Texas.
Come all that way.
So I shot a little bit of them, and I left, and I said, thanks a lot. And I started heading up towards Hal & Mal's, and they said, well, if you think we're fun, you ought to go down to the Edison Walthall. And I went, what's down there? She said, just go check it out. So I walked down there, and I walk in the lobby, and there are hundreds of women from Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, West
York,
Virginia, New York,
everywhere.
just everywhere. And they're all in these get-ups. And they're all having a lot of fun.
Had you already called it the Million Queen March at that point?
We started last year because I started. You know, we have a website, sweetpotatoqueens.com, and I answer every email, and I get plenty. It takes hours every day, and so I started inviting everybody that emailed me to come and be in the parade. And time passed, and more of them were going, "We're coming," and we told the Walthall, we told everybody, and I don't think anybody really believed how big it was going to be. And so, but we knew. So we said, it's the Million Queen March. So this year will be the second annual Million Queen March. Of course, that's our part of Mal's St. Patty's Day Parade.
We have
Total credit to Malcolm.
We have some clips from your documentary that we're going to share with folks. Tell us about this first piece.
This is the opening of the video, and it just I'm talking with Jill, and she just kind of sets up, how the parade started and where it's come, where it is now.
For those people who are just tuning in at home, wondering what are those people talking about. All right, roll tape. Watch. Here we go.
In 1982, we rode in the back of a pickup truck with a hand-lettered sign proclaiming us to be the Sweet Potato Queens. The Queens will tell you this. From the very first moment I sat in the back of that pickup truck and smiled and waved and threw sweet potatoes, I said, somebody will pay me to do this because I like this more than anything. My heart was singing. And, here we are. 200,000 books in print, 70, 80,000 people at the parade. For the first few years of the parade, we would allow anyone who wanted to be a Sweet Potato Queen to be one. There were not as many takers as you might think for this outstanding opportunity. And until I came up with the idea for the outfits. Once we got the outfits, then it became a closed society, and the requirements have gone way up. Everybody, literally, and their grandmother wants to be a Sweet Potato Queen. It's too late.
What's your daughter think of all this?
She loves it. Of course, she was born into it.
Right.
And literally, and so she's, from the time she could sit up, she has ridden in the parade as a tater-tot.
And Malcolm White, who started this parade all those years ago, has now become the beneficiary of all of this national.
Right. Well, I mean, I always say, everything I got, Malcolm gave me. Jackson really owes Malcolm White a tremendous debt of gratitude because he's such a visionary, and he sees, he just saw in 1982 that we didn't have a St. Patrick's Day parade and said, I think we will.
And the nice thing is that he did it for charity.
Right. It's all benefits the Children's Hospital at UNC, and it's grown and grown and grown. But there are any number of things like that in Jackson that we wouldn't have if it wasn't for Malcolm White.
Right. So you didn't bring your whole crew out to shoot this parade. That's kind of an interesting way for you to do it, wasn't it?
Most of my career I've worked in 16 and 35 millimeter motion picture film, which usually entails large crews and a lot of equipment, truckloads of equipment and small army of guys, And so I did this with what's relatively new technology. It's digital video. They call it mini DV.
And the camera was
camera's this big.
That big.
And so no crew, just me and handheld camera, and that part was kind of liberating.
Did you find that the Queens were more willing to talk to you then?
I just literally kind of stumbled down Capitol Street and started shooting, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it, And once we started looking at the footage, it was so funny that we said, let's get together and do some interviews, and we'll weave the story together. So I interviewed, 3 or 4 of the Sweet Potato Queens, and just kind of started putting it together. It was a lot of fun.
And the Queens,
well, of course, we love it.
Well, but their lives have been changed.
It's just it's because we've always taken ourselves very seriously, so we just only consider that it's our rightful place.
I'm going to go back to the tape and see a little bit more of some of these folks who, the million Queens who have come from all over America. It's just amazing. Roll tape.
I invited everyone in the universe to come to the parade and dressed as the queen of whatever they chose and march with the wannabe wannabes. And a great many of them took me up on that offer. They came from 22 states. We were thrilled that they all came. We called it the Million Queen March. because they came from everywhere. It was just astounding.
Happy St. Patrick's Day!
Winston-Salem, North Carolina!
New York City.
Memphis. The Turnip Green Queens, Birmingham, Alabama. The Tennessee Trailer Trash Queens.
Birmingham.
El Dorado, Arkansas.
New Orleans. Tampa, Florida. Birmingham.
We're from Memphis, Tennessee.
Charleston, West Virginia. Yes, sir.
We're the Tutus from Louisiana.
Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas.
This is all ages.
Who were they?
They were the Missouri Ozark Raspberry Queens. There were, what, 14 of them?
They're the first ones I stumbled into at the Edison Walthall that morning.
Really?
And I wound up going up to their rooms, and they were out on the pool on the deck and doing practices, and it's hilarious. It's what her books are about, and it's what the parade's about, and it's what this video's about. It's just it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, but does it surprise you that they're all ages? I mean,
It crosses all lines. It crosses. I mean, there's ages, gender, sexual orientation, race. I mean, what other lines are there? I mean, everybody comes and has a great time.
Who were your favorites?
Besides us, of course.
Besides
the Sweet Potato Queens, of course.
Besides the original.
Oh gosh, I don't know their name, but I know what their costume was.
Oh, they were the Bama Bikini Babes.
The Florida Naval Orange Queens also rated pretty high.
Yeah.
They had a motto: "Keep your navel queen."
And they also had oranges they were tossing out.
Tossing out
When did you
oranges.
realize then that you had a video, that you had
As soon
something?
as I walked into Edison Walthall, I mean, it was just, I went, gosh, this is going to be fun. And I mean, I knew it.
And it's
just
going to
right
be
then.
good.
Yeah. And how important was it to have something like that to do at that point in your life?
I mean, so much of my filmmaking is fairly serious, you know, and economic development films, and I'm very passionate about that type of work, but it's not a lot of fun, so to speak. And this was fun. It
But
came at a great
nobody was
time.
writing a check saying, we're going to
I had
underwrite this.
I had no idea where it would lead to, what would happen. So now I'm just waiting for her to get on like Jay Leno or Letterman and hold up a copy of the video and say it's available on our website.
Let me just hold up a copy.
SweetPotatoQueens.com.
It's funny stuff. We're going to show another clip in just a couple of seconds. So this second book then becomes the natural progression. But how do you have time to write it?
I don't know how I had time to write it because
this
I
has
was
been your
promoting.
life.
I was promoting the first book for the last 2 years. I just quit touring on the first book in November of this year. And so I don't really remember when I wrote this second book. I'm amazed that it got done. So I've just negotiated a contract for book 3, and I don't know when I'll write.
You're going to have to sit down and do that.
And do that
Well,
as well.
I'm curious about that writing process, though. What is your process, or do you know? Or do you keep notes, or do you...
when I'm anywhere, if something funny happens, I write it down. And I have to make detailed notes now that I'm old, because I'll have one line down and I'll come back 6 months later and I go, I know this was hilarious, but what does it mean? But so I have to write more detailed notes than I used to. But the other, I think one thing that's unusual about the way that I write is that I write one time. I sit down and I write, and that's it. And Joanne Pritchard Morris is my editor, and the first book we took it to Cancun for a week to finish, and she said, we'll do the edits and rewrites, and I said, I can retype it. And in the whole book, the first book, there was one word out of the entire book that she had changed, and I said, no, this is funnier, and changed it back.
And what was that word?
Launched.
Oh, well, of course. So when you write about things like the joys of marriage and remarriage and all those other issues that you talk about, those are first-time experiences. I mean, first-time writing experiences.
First time, yes, as a rule. And I write it one time, and then I'm done. But a lot of things in this second book, God Save the Sweet Potato Queens, are a result of the website, sweetpotatoqueens.com, where people have written to me and told me their hilarious stories. And they were gracious enough to let me include
What's
them.
your favorite? Other than the recipes, what's your favorite?
Helen Harlow from North Carolina that was in Walmart with her 3 children who were, for some reason, acting up.
Right.
And she had read the first book in which I have some child rearing tips. And she said, she literally thought, what would Jill do? And she immediately burst into song, singing Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog at the top of her lungs with gestures and dance steps. You know, she said people were gathering around looking for the cameras thinking this must be some kind of deal.
This is candid camera.
And she said
or
one
something.
of her children fell down. One of them knocked over a display running backwards to get away from her, and one just burst into tears. But she has never had the first, she only has to hum a bar of Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog if there's any unruly behavior anywhere there. So I proclaimed her Mother of the Year.
Perfect. The recipes are important to the book, aren't they?
Yes, they're death-defying recipes.
Why is it so important, and why do these?
They're funny.
Why do these other queens around the country feel it's so important to share these recipes?
They're funny, and they all have
for
a funny
things like
story
Twinkie
attached to them.
pies
Twinkie
and-
pies, just like, and sort of the theme of the recipes is, you know, it's like, what is the worst thing? You know, where it's really easy. Everything has like Velveeta or cream of mushroom soup or something like that in it, which is hilarious. But the funny thing is that the food is all really good. And a lot of it's funeral food, Southern things. Death chicken is my favorite in the new book, which is Maggie Wynn's recipe. And you start by lining a pan with bacon. So, I mean, it can
So you know
only get better
immediately.
from there.
Tell us about this clip that we're going to see. This last clip from the video.
Just, you know, how could we show some segments of the video without actually showing the queens doing their thing and the parade? So this is kind of like towards the end of the show, and it's a little bit about the parade.
This is that great moment when the float pulls up in front of the reviewing stand,
Right.
and the announcer.
Yes, there's Dr. Jimmy James from Jackson State, and you know he does that fabulous introduction for the Sonic Boom at all the football games, and you know I go to all the Jackson State games with Michael Rubenstein, my favorite sportscaster, and that's our favorite part. Is Dr. James' introduction, and I just said it's the best idea I ever had in my life. I called him. I said, if I edit this a little bit to make it be about the Sweet Potato Queens, will you do it? And he said, sure. And it is fabulous.
So does he come down and do it live every time?
No, it's taped.
It's on tape.
It's taped. Although we could get him down there live now.
I bet he would. It's just a great moment where you're going to hear a little bit of it. Roll tape. Here's a little bit more from the Sweet Potato Queens video.
The crowds have changed over the years. I mean, when the St. Patrick's Day Parade started, it was literally a handful of people getting off work in downtown Jackson wondering, you know, what is going on here?
Well, it got bigger and it got bigger, and our costumes got fancier and schmancier, and all of a sudden, there were these huge crowds. And the crowds got bigger every year, but then when the book came along, I looked up Capitol Street as we turned the corner right at the first of the parade, and I felt like an astronaut. I've never seen that many people in my life.
40, 50, 60,000 people lined the streets. They come from all over the country, of course, to see the Sweet Potato Queens.
We stopped the entire parade, and the judges' stand is in front of the governor's mansion. The judges, the bucketheads, headed by Peyton Prosper, set up in front of the governor's mansion. We stop the entire parade, and we go inside our float, which this year had the cover of the book.
Contemporary sounds and maneuvers, the summa cum laude of womankind, Jackson's own titillating assets, the incomparable Sweet Potato Queen.
And the cover of the book opens, and we come out. And the people are just driven mad.
We are the parade. It was the Million Queen March this year. I like to say it was the Rocky Horror Picture Show for middle-aged women.
I think that's just the greatest line.
It is.
I think that,
it is.
that's really what it's all about. Well, how do you top this? What do you
Oh, he's got big plans. Big plans.
I think this year I'm going to rent a lipstick camera system, which is appropriate.
Yes.
And mount them all over the float.
As long as it's pink lipstick, it'll be all right.
So I'll have, multi-camera coverage of the float, and I won't have to be there because they're unmanned cameras. That'll free me up to go shoot all of the millions of wannabes.
And what's going to happen this year? Is it going to be the 2 million?
There's just no telling. There is no telling. It is going to be...
It's just Topsy, isn't it? I mean,
so
it's just
huge. The Crosshaven Books in Birmingham that brought a busload last year over, I was just there last week, and they already have 80 people signed up to come.
Just
this
from
year.
Birmingham.
And that's just them. I mean, there are a whole lot of people that won't be on those buses that'll be. And the Deliberate Literate bookstore in Memphis is they're coming on the train. And Amtrak is doing special sweet potato recipes. Southwest Airlines is offering discounted airfares for wannabes for people flying in for the parade. There's a number on our website that, you mention that number and you get a discount for flying in.
To come on in.
To come down and play.
What's so wild is that, all these women, they come to Jackson, Mississippi, and they dress up funny and walk down the street.
Yeah. For a couple of...
And all said, every one of them that Jim interviewed and the newspapers interviewed, to a person, they all said it was the most fun they ever had in their lives.
Really?
And that's one thing about the parade. You know how you'll do something and it'll be just really the most fun you ever had in your life. And then you go back and you try to recreate it the next year, and it just kind of falls. Yeah. This will be the 19th year, and it is absolutely fabulous every time. It is just, we are giddy. It is so much fun.
But this is also just the most fun you could ever imagine, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I mean,
yes.
I mean, for what's happening in your life right now.
Right. I worked for Frank Masternardi 100 years ago at Sears, and he was a positive mental attitude junkie. And so I've heard every word ever said by Zig Ziglar, W. Clement Stone, Norman Vincent Peale, all of them. And one of the things they all say is you should do what makes your heart sing, and the money will follow. And that's why the comment at the beginning of the clip that I said from the first time I ever rode in that parade, someone will pay me to do this, because this makes my heart sing.
And this is
and here
fun.
we are.
And this is exciting. And
yes.
This is funny. But it also touches your heart, doesn't it?
I get letters, as I said, and I have one from a woman in Nashville who had to put her favorite aunt, Mary, in a nursing home. And she said she would go to see her every day, and they would run out of conversation by the time they covered, I can't breathe, I can't sleep in here, and my foot hurts. And so she started taking my books to her to read. And they were just hysterical, and all of the other people in the nursing home would come to listen, and the staff would all come. So Aunt Mary is now the most popular person in the nursing home. Aunt Mary is 99.
Wow.
And her niece wrote and said, I just hope the dear Lord will let her die laughing. P.S. It's a distinct possibility. And then I got a letter from a woman in Kentucky who took the book to read to her sister who was undergoing like her umpteenth round of chemotherapy. Right. She'd battled cancer for 11 years. And she would read a few minutes of it to her every treatment until she would fall asleep. She said, I wouldn't read ahead. That wouldn't be right. And she said, I wish I had a happy ending to this, but I read the last chapter to her the day she died. And that we weren't there this year, but we're coming next year in honor of Debbie.
So she'll be here.
That's pretty powerful
this
stuff.
Time around. Yeah. What do you get grief about? What do people say? Oh my goodness, you can't write about talking vaginas and. But you do.
Well, you know, my mother's initial reaction from reading the first book was, I don't know why you have to talk like that. But it's, you know, it's like we've said that the worst thing you can do if you're from the South is do something that embarrasses your mama, unless it happens to end up making a whole lot of money, in which case all is forgiven. But I think she's, the one thing that saved me as far as my mother was concerned is that Willie Morris loved the book.
Right.
Joanne would work on it in the daytime, Willie would work on it at night, and Mother adored Willie, and vice versa. And so it sort of made it okay. If Willie liked it, then it must be okay.
And how many languages is it in?
So far, just German.
Just German.
Mm-hmm.
But more to come.
Absolutely.
And how many copies in the first printing of the new book?
The new book,
Right.
100,000.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's just big out of the...
I'm very grateful. I'm totally grateful.
All right, here's the book. It's God Save the Sweet Potato Queen.
Yes.
Here's the video. It's a lot of fun. It's great fun to watch.
You can get them at the website, sweetpotatoqueens.com, or, of course, at Lemuria, the only bookstore we ever really like.
Thank you.
Great. It's been a pleasure to be here.
This is fun. Thanks. Good
Thank
luck.
you.
See you
Appreciate
when
it.
what?
I'll
Just
be
a few
particular.
weeks?
Yes, at the parade.
See you for the parade.
Mhm.
All right. And thank you. See you next time.